accordingly, whereas right now you have sort of, I know, a wide range.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, as we go into it, you'll be able to tell us what would be an appropriate
Mhm.
grade level.
Yeah, I'm trying to
kind of
figure out-
address.
We don't want it to be too difficult for the low, but not so easy, but I'm almost rather maybe have it have it be a little bit easier and have them really just read it a lot closer and looking for certain things and gathering ideas from that. It's not as much comprehension as it is learning what good writers do, you know, and how they generate ideas and things like that. So I'm thinking a little easier than harder.
Okay, yeah.
But
Was this originally written as a writing program only and it's been adapted to ELD or what?
It is originally a writing program. Yeah. With reading as part of the program, but it's not a reading program.
I mean, I just think it would be great to use in homeroom for our whole class.
Mhm.
I know, I'll end up
I
doing
know.
part of that too, but I
But-
realize that it's,
But this is kind of good, I don't know, practice, I feel like, so if it is done next year, you sort of have some under your belt to be able to, you know, this program, because she chocks this so full of information and ideas and suggestions that it's meant to be taught year after year, so that next year you might pull something else out of that session that you didn't use because you just didn't have time or whatever, and maybe something that you did this year didn't work so well, but she's got plenty of other ideas during that session that you can use, and so it's jam-packed, and so it's meant to be used year after year and adapted and modified to how you wanna use it and what you wanna pull from it. So, okay. I'm trying to think what would be the most beneficial. I think we are going to skip the unit overview, which is sort of an overview of this whole unit, and focus, would you like to maybe go over what a session would look like and how that's broken down, like a mini lesson, the 20 minutes of writing and the share out?
yeah, I wanna start planning.
Okay.
I don't know what that looks like, what page is that? That's what I want.
Okay, so let's turn to, under training materials, we're gonna skip, what I was gonna do with this, if you care to do this on your own, what I was gonna do with this, which is, we're sort of skipping and what's up there, is I had you read this over the break, the welcome to the unit, and it talks about sort of an overview of each bend, or what, like an overview of what we're sort of having the kids do in bend one, and we talked about that. It's kind of generating ideas, planting seeds. The second bend is more about revising and editing, and then the third bend is they're producing and continuing to edit and then celebrate their work. So if you want to use this welcome to the unit to fill out what each kind of these bends is doing, you can. But I think it would be more beneficial to actually go over a lesson.
Yeah.
Okay.
So can I just ask you, for bend one, there are 5 sessions, so that would roughly translate to 10 days
Yes.
of instruction?
Mhm. A question that I had that I haven't gotten answered yet is, if your day, or if this is your lesson plan, but it's supposed to last like maybe 2 days, do you teach that mini lesson twice? Or do you teach the mini lesson, you have them go and write, and then the next day, do you kind of just do like a quick revisit of your mini lesson and then continue to have them write? I'm not
And then
sure.
share out at the end
Yeah,
of
and
the
then
session?
share out of the second day, or maybe even, they might have something done on the first day, not very much, but we wanna celebrate what they've got. So I'm not sure if it's gonna be spread out over 2 days, are you keeping to the same structure every day, or are you maybe, lengthening sort of that structure over 2 days? It's the only thing is I'm thinking that's a lot of writing for the second day if they're gonna be writing for, 30, actually, the way that they could be writing up to 45 minutes, but that's a long time of writing.
Well,
So,
I'm thinking if you finish a session, you can start the mini lesson for the next one.
Although,
No?
from the mini lesson, they begin working like literally like at that moment, and they start writing, and then as they start writing and you see that they're sort of on task and they've got ideas flowing, then you sort of send them on their way. So I don't know if you'd want to start a mini lesson without being able to like send them right off.
Which that was interesting, because I read that too, you know, tap them on the shoulder, you ready to sit down, and thinking, well, where are they gonna meet up?
I
thought
know,
maybe they
that-
could have over their desks and then tap them on the shoulder and they can actually have a seat. I just like, you know.
That's
Logistically,
a
that's
tough
okay.
one, because ultimately the way she's designed the program is you call them on the carpet. And this is like, and you're in the author's chair, and it works really well, say, in the classrooms down in the primary grades, because they have carpet area. You guys are jam-packed with desks. So she just challenges you to be creative when it comes to like, it's supposed to be kind of a special time where they're getting to kind of bring their notebooks to you, and they're gonna be practicing what you're doing, and I don't know if there's an area in your class where like half of them could be sitting in the desks and half could be sitting on the desks, or some could be sitting on the floor, like in front, and then the other ones could be, if you have like 2 rows of desks, where some could be just be sitting on the desks. And
During what, during sharing time?
this is during the mini lesson, the very
Oh, the
beginning
mini
part, where
lesson.
you're doing sort of explicit instruction, and for that 12 minutes where you just have their undivided attention. Sometimes it's hard to get that when you have, you know, the back of the room and you're not quite sure what they're doing while you're up at the front.
Well, during the mini lesson, is there writing where they need to do some writing? Okay, so they need to,
They need to have their,
I'm having them turn their chairs around, they'll be on their knees, they'll be like fixated on their desks. I mean, even like a small change of position,
yeah,
So
definitely.
they're just, they can like not stay, they can
You could
stand.
be on the side of the room and they all turn, like you said, turn to the side, and they're looking at you that way, you know, instead of being at their desk already.
Mhm.
Something just to sort of change it up from what it looks like when they're back at their desk and their head is down and they're like completely focused on their writing. So just, that's a little bit of a challenge, but just think about it, how that can work in your room. But I know I brought that up and it's too. Okay, so what we're looking at now is the Writer's Workshop lesson plan. And you can also turn to, in your spiral bound notebook, you want to turn to session 1. Hi, Chris. Okay. So the way that this is sort of broken down is you've got what session number, the materials and resources that you might need, and then the mentor text you're going to be using. And I'm trying to figure out where that information is found. Usually in the getting ready, so you'll see this little getting ready box at the left-hand side. It sort of prepares you as to like what you're going to be doing, what your students will need. Like for example, this one says each child will need his or her own writer's notebook and a writing tool. If you're going to have to create a chart or an anchor chart, they sort of tell you right there, this is, you're going to be creating this chart for the students. They really encourage you to be doing what the students are doing. So, because you kind of know what they're going through and what their thought processes are going to be doing, and when the kids see you writing and sort of struggling and changing your ideas, it's good for them to see that, but you really want to be doing what they're doing. Markers for writing on the chart, and prepare your own example of a time when writing worked for you and a time when it was difficult. So this sort of box is really helpful to give you kind of like just a really quick overview of what you're going to need and what your kids are going to be doing. That will help you to determine ahead of time, okay, I need to sort of be thinking about this anchor chart and what it's going to look like. I gave you examples of anchor charts in here. So I found these on Pinterest. If you're ever on Pinterest, or even Googling Lucy Calkins anchor charts and look at images, this will help you. But these are just some examples of what some of her anchor charts ended up looking like. So, and if I don't have the specific one that you need, I'm sure if you look on Pinterest, I'll have one for you to copy. Okay. So then moving down from this top section onto where the mini lesson starts, we've got connection, So this is where you're making connection to the real world or to maybe something that the students have already learned. If they've done the writer's workshop in the past, then you can make connections. So last year when you were doing your third grade narrative and you use these strategies, we're going to be building upon those strategies. But for these students, it's going to be brand new. So, but they've written narratives before, so they're going to have strategies tucked away. You just kind of help them pull them out. Sorry, I'm on page 4 where it says mini lesson and connection in my book. For you, it might be different. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So I'm right here where it says connection. What I would do to make this easy on yourself is look at the bold print. So under where it says connection, you are obviously not going to have enough time to, in 1 minute, read all of that. I mean, like, that's 2 pages worth of stuff. So what you're going to have to do is just read the bold print, because that's the most important information. And then down here, sort of where it's not bolded, is where she just sort of gives her little ideas and her little stories of what she would say or what she's been through. And so if that doesn't resonate with you and that's not something that you would feel comfortable saying, or that's not you, you can think of your own example or your own time when you use that strategy or whatever. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. So I just don't want you to get overwhelmed with all the writing because there's a ton of it. There's a ton. One strategy that I heard that was really helpful was that they just take a sticky, like a Post-it note right here, and they would write the word connection, and then they would write 1 sentence as to what they need to say for connection. And then under the teaching part, they would write teaching, and then they would write 1 sentence as to what the main idea of what they're going to be teaching for that day. And then the same with the active engagement and then the share or the link. So that's one way to do it, is to get a Post-it note and really narrow it down for yourself. So, okay, so the connection is you're connecting it to the real world, and then your teaching point is basically what you're going to tell them what you're going to be teaching. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to write a narrative, or I'm going to be, so example, let's see, we've got the connection, towards the end of the connection where there's like a little flower dealy, it says, today I want to teach you another strategy, one that helps people write powerful stories. It usually works to jot moments that have been turning points in your life. These might be first times or last times, or they might be times when you realize something important. Then you take one of those moments and write the whole story, fast and furious. So when it talks about naming the teaching point, you're basically going to be telling them straight out, this is what we're going to be doing. So make a connection and then the teaching point. And that altogether, that should take you literally 1 minute. So that's why it's really important. Just look at the bold print if you don't know what to do in 1 minute, or how to condense it into 1 minute. Okay, so then this second sort of row right here, this is where you're actually going to be teaching, and you're going to be showing and demonstrating what they're going to be doing. So you're modeling instruction, and that's under the teaching heading right here. So for instance, in grade 5, demonstrate the step-by-step sequence of using the strategy. In this case, generate ideas for personal narratives by listing first times, last times, or times when you realized something. And then, so you're going to be creating a list, and then like I said down here, she's like talking out loud in here for you. Let me show you how I use these strategies, and she's just talking it through, which you'll be doing, but in your own words. Or you can copy this or use this if you want. It's definitely not a script, it's suggestions. So, and then up here, it sort of shows you where she's starting, like an anchor chart. So that's what this is up here. Do you have one of those on yours? Maybe the next. So you might not have an anchor chart in your unit yet. Yeah, so like grade 5 has an anchor chart that she started, and you might not quite have that yet, but you'll see as we go on. Okay, so this is where you're showing them what to do, and then there's different ways that you're going to do that. So like these little boxes down here, you're not going to be doing every single one of those, but for one day you might be demonstrating or modeling, another day you're going to be explaining with an example, either like a student example, or you might be using an example from yourself or like a mentor text. You don't always have to have the whole entire text either. So all your students aren't going to have a copy of the text, but you might be able to photocopy a page of the text, blow it up,